A senior opposition figure deserts his boss, Peter Dutton, over the voice referendum. Newmont Resources ups its bid for Newcrest to just under $30 billion. And coins, Lego sets, sneakers and art make the list of most popular collectibles in Australia. It's Wednesday, the 13th of April, 2023. Welcome to Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Michael Thompson and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, after the show, you have an interview coming up with Luke Donovan, partner global carbon markets at Apostle Funds Management.
Yes, so we talk about carbon markets, about things like the safeguard mechanism, what it means for policy certainty in Australia, what it means for investors. So it's very much an investor look at carbon markets in Australia and how you can invest and get access to sort of products or at least exposure to some of those products. It's a really interesting chat with Luke.
Yeah, it's a real kind of 101 on that whole space. He does a very good job of explaining it all in kind of plain English, which is very handy for me. Sean, the main story this morning, Peter Dutton's hold on his job as leader of the opposition took a bit of a blow yesterday after Shadow Attorney General Julian Leeser quit his job saying he couldn't vote no against the voice referendum.
Leeser is also the opposition's Indigenous spokesperson and a long-time campaigner for Indigenous constitutional recognition. The Barara MP said he believed it's time for a constitutionally enshrined advisory body and he'll campaign for the yes case. That's not something he could do as a member of the Shadow Cabinet, particularly a senior member such as the Attorney General. Within the party, Leeser is easily the highest profile critic of the federal coalition's position on The Voice, as outlined by Peter Dutton last week. Former Indigenous Australians Minister Ken Wyatt quit the Liberal Party last week to protest Mr Dutton's policy, but of course, Leeser is part of the inner sanctum at the moment, or at least he was. Opposition leader Peter Dutton says Julian Leeser is at odds with the overwhelming majority of the Liberal Party room. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese had a different take. He welcomed the MP's principled decision, while Liberal moderate Andrew Bragg says it increases the odds of a successful referendum.
Just how serious, Sean, is this for Peter Dutton?
Well, it's unlikely he's about to lose his job, but the risk is that Leeser's stance on principle emboldens other in the party room to do the same thing. It would be particularly hard on Dutton, for example, if a backbencher came out and left the party on this. At least the Attorney General just goes back to the backbench. He keeps his seat in Parliament. Leeser's seat in outer North Sydney is safe Liberal, but there was an 8% swing against him last election. Clearly, he's tapped into the mood of the electorate, even if Dutton hasn't. According to Phil Curry from the Financial Review, Leeser is highly regarded on both sides of politics. He's likely to join other high-profile coalition backbenchers, people like Andrew Bragg and Bridget Archer, when the official Liberals for Yes campaign begins, and that will certainly harm unity within the Libs, and it will damage Peter Dutton's leadership.
All right. How did local markets perform yesterday?
The S&P ASX 200 closed the day up 1.3% to 7,310 points. Now, that's the highest close in about a month. The index is actually only about 4% below its all-time high. Yesterday, the materials stocks, the consumer companies and the financials and real estate investment trusts all did well. Among the large caps, Fortescue Metals Group was up nearly 3%, while Westpac and ANZ both jumped around 2%. BHP, National Australia Bank and Rio Tinto also outperformed. The underperformers included WiseTech Global, toll road operator Transurban, and to a lesser extent, CSL and Telstra. In corporate news, Michael, Latitude Financial came out. It said it had received a ransom demand from the criminals behind the recent cyber attack on the company. The finance provider said it won't pay a ransom in line with the position of the Australian government. The cyber criminals stole data belonging to more than 14 million past and present customers in that attack.
Sean, before you go on, quick question.
Yeah.
Would the ransom demand arrive via email, do you think?
I suppose so.
I suppose I know it's a very serious topic, but I'm lamenting the demise of the good old-fashioned ransom letter with the letters cut out from magazines.
Yeah. I don't know. I have no idea. Do they get it via email, or is it some like encrypted code thingamajig that Jack Ryan would send?
That's a good point. Well, actually, remember when we spoke previously to McGrath-Nicol about this.
Yes.
And the demand actually just came via a phone call.
Yes. Very pleasantly spoken woman said, you owe us millions of dollars. Yes, that was interesting. Maybe it is a phone call.
Okay. Let's move on, Sean.
Yeah. Another corporate to come out yesterday was Bubs Australia. It said it was replacing its chair, Dennis Lin, with Katrina Rathie. It's a fairly terse notice to the ASX, which was worth reading. It said that Bubs' recent deterioration in financial performance and the need to change the governance framework to ensure that it aligns with ASX corporate governance principles and best practices was behind the move. Kind of makes you wonder when you read something like that. Bub's share price fell 2% yesterday. It's about 85% below its pre-COVID peak. And just on the short one, Mayne Pharma said it's completed the sale of its US retail generics portfolio to Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. It got about $134 million for that one.
All right. And what's been happening in international markets?
Well, Bitcoin pushed above $30,000 a unit yesterday for the first time since June last year. It's now up more than 80% since the start of this year. Mind you, it's still about half the level of its peak back in November 2021. It means the value of Bitcoin has recovered since the failure of Celsius and FTX late last year. Now, helping Bitcoin and other cryptos has been the collapse of two regional banks in the US. It's allowed crypto supporters to push the line that the cryptocurrencies are an attractive alternative to traditional finance. Not so sure about that one. Otherwise, Michael, not a lot happening in oil and gold markets, and the Aussie dollar is trading around 66.7 US cents.
All right. There is still plenty happening. A big 24 hours in business news, actually. We'll be back in a moment with the rest of the day's business news. Sean, US-based gold miner Newmont has upped its bid for Newcrest mining to just under $30 billion, and the local digger will open its books to Newmont.
Yes, the improved takeover bid included more shares and cash for Newcrest shareholders, and if successful, would be the second largest takeover ever on the ASX. The largest, of course, was Block's $39 billion takeover of Afterpay in late 2021. Now, the offer represents a 46% premium to the price the local gold digger was fetching the day before the initial offer was made. The US giant said that its revised, non-binding indicative offer was likely to be the best and final price it was willing to pay for Australia's leading gold miner, unless, of course, it's dragged into a bidding war or something like that. Newcrest share price jumped 5% yesterday to $29.68. That's still below the bid price of $32.87 a share. If successful, Newmont would consolidate its position as the world's largest gold miner. It would also acquire Newcrest's mines at Cadia in central West New South Wales and Lahire in Papua New Guinea.
And just staying in the resources sector, BHP has won institutional investor support for its $9.6 billion bid for Oz Minerals.
The shareholder vote on the deal takes place tomorrow, and three of the biggest shareholders of Oz Minerals, Norges Bank from Norway, the California Public Employees Retirement System, and the Florida State Board of Administration will vote for the deal. Now, BHP will pay $28.25 in cash for each Oz Minerals share in a deal which will very much boost the big Australians' reserves of copper and nickel. Also yesterday, Vietnam's Competition and Consumer Authority approved BHP's proposed acquisition.
Sean, a bit of good news on the trade front, with China set to review punitive tariffs on Australian barley.
In return, Australia will suspend its World Trade Organization appeal against the tariffs for 3 months while the review takes place. It's a decent backdown from Beijing in its campaign of economic coercion against $20 billion of Australian exports. Foreign Minister Penny Wong and Trade Minister Don Farrell said if the result is favourable to Australian producers, it could serve as a template for resolving other Australia-China trade cases before the WTO. Things like tariffs on Australian wine, that sort of stuff. Now, barley sales to China had been worth $600 million in 2019 before it became the first Australian commodity hit by China's trade sanctions of tariffs and unofficial bans. Other goods to be targeted, of course, included seafood, timber, cotton, coal was another one, although coal has been back allowed into Chinese ports in recent months.
And China's sending a senior official to Australia for the first time in 6 years, Sean.
It's significant. The Vice Foreign Minister will travel to Australia and Fiji this week for a new round of political consultation. It's actually the first visit by a senior official since 2017.
Wouldn't you love it if you were the Vice Foreign Minister and you're heading to Australia and you go, you know what, I might just stop off at Fiji.
Yeah, on the way home.
Oh, that would actually be my dream job, to be the well, actually, maybe not the vice foreign minister for China, but just to be a diplomat whose job involved visiting Pacific Islands. And I would just spend 6 months of the year touring kind of Tonga, Samoa, Fiji, Cook Islands, etc., all under the guise of doing important diplomatic work.
Which I'm sure this gentleman is doing, Michael.
Oh, absolutely. Sean, consumer sentiment jumped nearly 10% this month after the Reserve Bank's decision last week to pause on rate rises.
Confidence is now at its highest level since June last year, according to the Westpac Melbourne Institute Index. But it's still 10% below April last year, which was the month before the Reserve Bank began raising the cash rate. Westpac Chief Economist Bill Evans said despite the jump this month, consumer sentiment is still weak. He expects consumer spending this year and into next to be lacklustre. The survey, which was taken over 4 days from April 3 till 6, and now keep in mind the Reserve Bank paused rate rises on April 4, it shows that about 1/3 of respondents still expect more rate rises, notwithstanding last week's decision. And there has been a surge in confidence in the outlook for house prices as well, Michael. Just quickly, the National Australia Bank Business Conditions and Sentiment Survey for March was released yesterday also. It shows conditions remained resilient last month, edging lower, but well above long-run averages. Trading conditions remain elevated, suggesting businesses continue to experience strong demand and conditions are generally pretty good across states and sectors. Business confidence appears to have stabilised, but it still remains below long-run averages.
Sean, one of Australia's more high-profile startups, online grocery delivery company Milkrun, will be delivering no more and will close by the end of the week.
Yes, very sudden. Milkrun has made all staff redundant, with its Chief Executive Officer, Danny Millam, blaming deteriorating macroeconomic conditions. Millam wrote to staff yesterday saying the company would close by Friday. Just like that. Milkrun had attempted and failed to raise more money on several occasions over the past year or so. It made major changes in February, but that wasn't enough. The company has about 400 employees, and Millam said all will get their full entitlements.
It was an interesting company, wasn't it? Because they were really trying to speed up the whole grocery and alcohol deliveries, like 20 minutes to from the shop to your door, which is really quite incredible.
Yeah, I never could quite work out how you could do that logistically. Great service to customers.
Yeah. Now, international news, Sean, a couple of big stories. US President Joe Biden was due to arrive in Belfast overnight to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, as London urged the region's biggest unionist party to end its boycott of Northern Ireland's political institutions.
Biden's visit, which will be followed by a longer trip to the Republic of Ireland, follows the signing of a new UK-EU deal covering post-Brexit trading rules. The president's trip, according to the Financial Times, comes after almost a year of political limbo in Northern Ireland caused by the post-Brexit trade regime. Now, Biden often boasts of his Irish heritage and Catholic faith. Kind of fits him well, really. The Good Friday Agreement signed on April 10, 1998 ended 3 decades of conflict in Northern Ireland and established a power-sharing government involving the region's unionist and nationalist communities. The US administration at the time played a major role in the talks. The other thing about this story, which I think is worth pointing out, the Good Friday Agreement on April 10, 1998 was a question in the local trivia quiz last week, which I got wrong.
Oh, did you? I see. If you do, you don't admit that, Sean.
No. Well, 96 or 98. It was 3 dates, I think, 96, 98 and 2002. And I said 96.
Oh, well, now it's been committed to the public record, so you will never live this shame down.
I'll be back tonight, though. Don't you worry. Back tonight to try and improve our performance.
Oh, good. Because last week you went from like 16th overall to 14th, wasn't it?
17 to 15th. Very confident we can improve again this week.
Out of how many? 17?
Irrelevant, Michael. Irrelevant.
Okay. Now, Sean, severe sandstorms have been hitting. I can't say the word sandstorm without. Remember that song, the Sandstorm? Was it by Darude? Was it?
Whoa. This must be far too modern for me.
Oh, it was late 90s, I think.
As I said, far too modern for me.
Oh, it lives on and on and on.
Sandstorm. I will go, there's a whole period of music in my life where I just missed. It's about 15 years and it very much fits in with when I had kids. So I loved music, and then you have kids and you have about 15 years, and until they start listening to music again, you just don't get the opportunity. And I reckon Sandstorm fit it into there.
Sandstorm is just, you will have heard it. I guarantee you will have heard this song. Go and Google it and report back tomorrow. It will be stuck in your head for some time. Anyway, serious story, because these sandstorms have been hitting China for more than a month, and now they're causing air quality issues in South Korea and Japan.
It's pretty incredible. So fine dust particles from the Gobi Desert have been increasing in South Korea and could reach very unhealthy levels in Seoul, according to Air Korea, which is the nation's environment ministry. The sandstorms are forecast to reach Japan today, affecting visibility in the central region. That includes Tokyo. The impact is spreading after sandstorms hit 18 provinces and cities in China on Monday night, according to Bloomberg. It's the latest in a series of severe dust storms to hit the Beijing region since the beginning of March. Now, dry weather has amplified the impact, causing widespread fires, torching grasslands in Mongolia and forests in China's Sichuan province. And before we leave this story, Western Australia is bracing for Cyclone Ilsa, which at the moment is expected to cross the coast north of Port Hedland. It's the sixth and probably the strongest cyclone of the season. Let's hope everyone remains safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, Sean, a new record price has been paid for a car license plate, $15 million paid in Dubai.
That smashed the record set in the United Arab Emirates more than a decade ago and was well above the $3.2 million for the number plate in Hong Kong earlier in the year. Emirates Auction sold the plate. It said P7. That's it.
P7?
P7.
What's so special about that?
Who knows, Michael? Who knows? It was a charity auction and proceeds go to a global food initiative. But really, the story allows me to segue into another story, which I've been trying to find room for a few days.
I love that you actually go to an effort to find a link, whereas I'll just start talking about ransom notes and old songs by Norwegian DJs.
So eBay's State of Collectibles report for 2023 was released recently. It reckons there might be 5 million collectors in Australia hoarding things from coins and Lego sets. Lego sets are particularly popular at the moment, to sneakers and art. Now, sneakers apparently is another fast-growing collectible. Most collectibles are actually in it to make money out of it. Watches and handbags are the most expensive collectibles. This is according to eBay, though the prize for overpriced memorabilia has got to go to a Michael Jordan autographed first championship 1991 commemorative card that sold for over $100,000 to some person, shall we say, in New South Wales.
That's amazing.
$100,000 for a card.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
And Darude is from Finland, not Norway. I just Googled it while you were talking.
Right.
That is a great story to finish on, Sean. And look, I've got to give a quick little mention. I suppose this could almost double as our Mia, our most enthusiastic advocate of fear and greed for today. Remember yesterday we were talking about the new Australian boss of Aldi in terms of he's been the Australian boss for a while and now he's kind of going into a global role. And we talked then about the TV show, we think from the 90s, which was a game show set in a supermarket where you had to run up and down the aisles and find different things. And I said I couldn't remember what the name was. And I put the call out for anyone who could remember it to get in touch via social media. And Gino and Elisa both got in contact and said it is called Supermarket Sweep.
Really?
Do you remember it?
I don't remember it. I'm now Googling it because
It falls into that same category of that same time period where you were not consuming any kind of entertainment at all, were you?
I was just too tired.
Just in a permanent state of exhaustion. Well, anyway, Elisa has said maybe we should start a petition for a reboot for it to bring it back.
Yeah, I like it.
And I'm always looking for a fear and greed campaign to adopt, and I think this is a worthy one.
So this was an Australian show. So it was I've just looked this up. Originally, it was 1965 in the US, an American game show, and then it was revised by Grundy Television in 1992. There you go.
Yeah, it's a great show. So anyway, go and watch some episodes of Supermarket Sweep on YouTube, and also look up Sandstorm by Darude and report back on all of these things tomorrow.
I will do that, Michael. I promise you.
I'm sure you will. You will not do either of those things. All right, up next is the Fear and Greed Daily interview with Luke Donovan from Apostle Funds Management.
Yes, all about investing in carbon, be that credits or how you can potentially invest given the safeguard mechanism and how businesses in Australia are changing, how you might be able to make money out of that.
It's coming up next in the Fear and Greed playlist on your podcast platform or at fearandgreed.com.au. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Wednesday, the 12th of April, 2023. Make sure you're following the podcast and join us online on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget that you can stay up to date on all the business news with Alexa and your Amazon Echo smart speaker. Simply say, Alexa, play the Fear and Greed podcast to catch the latest episode. You can grab yours now at amazon.com.au. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was Fear and Greed. Have a great day.